All right, Dr. Tam here and Rocky here as well. Just like every day, we want to make sure you get all the information to decrease pain, increase your function, and longevity. Rocky, what is the good word today? What's happening?
All right. Okay, so based on the last episode that we did about peripheral neuropathy,
Yeah.
I found out that there are more questions about it, and there's a different like a subcategory of peripheral neuropathy, which they call motor neuropathy.
Oh, yeah.
So I wanted to ask, like, what is motor neuropathy? How is it
Sure.
different from peripheral neuropathy?
We're just going to get right into it.
Uh-huh.
So here's the thing is peripheral neuropathy is an overall category. Peripheral means outside of the center, right? Outside, you know.
Mhm.
So it's like when people talk about a perimeter, perimeter means outside. Peripheral neuropathy means outside from the center. So it's
Mhm.
usually problems with your feet, your hands, and it could be a sensory and motor. Sensory
Mm.
is where people are feeling pain, tingling, numbness, burning, stabbing pain, numbness, right? I think I said numbness twice on
Yeah.
this. But there's the motor part. So, motor, how it affects the motor system is people start to lack function. They can't grip anymore. They can't walk very well anymore. They have to start taking wider and shorter steps, you see.
Mhm.
And they can't lift up their feet as well anymore. They can't put their feet down and like lift themselves up anymore. Like their calf starts to stop working. They just
Mhm.
lose function and muscle. And what happens over time is that it can cause atrophy of the muscles. That term is true. You don't use it, you lose it, right?
Lose it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then that's also when balance start being a problem. And as balance starts to become a problem, well, people tend to start falling a lot more. And that's
Mhm.
also when we start seeing that patients can break their hip. You're more likely to break a hip that way. You have enough falls, right? That
Mhm.
can be a problem as well. But that's overall what motor neuropathy is. And sometimes it affects your sensory nerves first.
Mhm.
Sometimes it affects your motor nerves first. It's hard to say exactly which one's going to affect first, but one of the first things you'll notice is that your balance is off. And
Mhm.
sometimes the first thing when people notice their balance is off is when they turn off the lights and all of a sudden people start like,
The
whoa, they have to touch, they can't feel where they're going anymore.
Mhm.
And that's gonna be a problem in the long run.
Right. And normally these symptoms that you talked about, Dr. Tam, is the things that a patient who just came from a stroke, I would say, like who would feel, right? So according to the video that I saw, it says that it's actually the first thing that you will feel. Motor neuropathy would be the first things that you would feel because, and sensory neuropathy as well, because they have the longest nerves in the
Yes.
body, so it
Yeah.
gets affected first.
Because it's furthest away from your heart, you see. And then also in a stroke patient, it depends on where the stroke is as well in the brain. If the stroke can sometimes, well, the right side of your brain controls the left side of your body in terms of a lot of the motor. So if someone has a stroke on the right side of their brain, now the left side, the left arm, the left leg doesn't work as well. Same thing if it was on the other side. Now the right side, if it was on the left side, the stroke was on the left side. Now the right side doesn't work very well. So it is very, yeah, it can happen. Could be in a stroke patient, it could be peripheral or it could be motor, right? But then sometimes it could also be autonomic as well, because neuropathy will absolutely starts affecting everything.
Hmm. Right. So aside from stroke, aside from diabetes, what else could be the root cause of motor neuropathy?
Well, any form of neuropathy, anything that causes neuropathy can eventually lead to some form of motor neuropathy. It's just that in stroke and diabetes, it's those are usually the more severe, yeah, severe form of motor neuropathy, but all types of neuropathy can affect it in the long run. It would affect someone's speech impediment. Sometimes they might not be able to have certain facial expressions, right? As well, they're not going to be able to reach for things because their shoulders aren't working correctly. See, neuropathy is one of those diseases where more people need to know because it can affect multiple areas in the body. Here's the thing, you won't feel pain or you can't move a muscle without a nerve. That's why the body's central nervous system is one of the most important systems that everyone usually miss on taking care of. See, and what's the central nervous system full of? It's full of nerves. Nerves are how we can see, touch, hear, smell, and taste. Those are controlled by our cranial nerves, right? Which is the nerves inside the brain. Well, sometimes you might watch a movie, someone gets hit in the back of their head and they can't see, they black out. Athletes happens all the time. They get hit in the back of their head and they black out, they can't see, they fall down. And then they wake up and say, momentarily, I couldn't see for like 5 seconds. And that's because your optic nerve comes from the back. So in the brain, it goes to the back of the head and it comes straight through to your eyeballs. See? So then this is why this is called the occiput as well, the occiput of the head. When someone gets hit behind the occiput, the occipital nerve, which is cranial nerve number 2 in the brain, cuts off your vision. And now you black out.
Mm-hmm. And are there instances where, just like I would say Bell's palsy, where you wake up one day and you can no longer move? Are there instances of that for motor neuropathy? Like one day you just can't move your leg, or
Well,
you
yeah.
can't talk anymore.
Sometimes Bell's palsy is a severe, more of a severe problem in the face, right? In the Bell's palsy world. Usually, motor neuropathy doesn't, unless if it's a stroke, right? If it's over time from diabetes, some of the other illnesses like cancer and whatnot, they don't develop that quickly overnight. It's a gradual. And that's why it's so dangerous. Some people call it the silent killer because you don't know it's killing you slowly. I think that's a song, Killing Me Slowly. Right? But it's one of those things where, and now you got me thinking of that song, Killing Me Slowly, or I can't remember
Oh
the
my.
lyrics, right?
I think that's off.
That's a song. That's a song from like
Yeah.
the 80s or something. Yeah. But other than that, it is something where, see, when people have diabetes, like my grandmother, she had diabetes. It's one of those things where she started losing her balance. Now, we didn't know what it was. Our
Mm-hmm.
family didn't have the medical background, even though my aunt was a school nurse. That's as medical as we got, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she always knew that and told us, diabetes is bad. And my grandmother, which is my aunt's mom, right,
Mm-hmm.
had it. But we never understood. And we didn't know how to take care of ourselves either. We didn't know that candy was bad. Growing up, I didn't know I wasn't supposed. Now I'm telling my daughter, like, hey, you should not be drinking, sugary drinks or carbonated sugary drinks. And she would say, well, why not? And we tell her about it. We tell her stories of how people can lose their teeth and their bones get fragile, right? But as a child, we didn't know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
We thought sweets growing up, poor, I guess, when you grow up broke and poor, sweets is
Mm-hmm.
a treat. You want more,
Right. Mm-hmm.
right?
Treats.
Treats, yay!
Yeah.
You go to McDonald's and have a sundae. You go to 7-Eleven and have an icy and a Slurpee. That was a
Mm-hmm.
treat, right?
Right.
So growing up in um, families that are not, economically sound, right? Like me, grew up poor, but
Mm-hmm.
growing up poor, you think sweets are amazing. It's a reward, right? It's a reward. Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
So as we get older, when you have some money to spend on food, you don't spend on regular food. Kids
Yeah.
don't go to a regular store and buy food. They go to a 7-Eleven and buy candy, some sodas, right? They rather have that because it was a reward. And that's how it was for me, you
Mm-hmm.
see? So, and that's that. It can affect all kinds of people that way.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
And definitely contributes to, getting that motor neuropathy.
Oh,
So,
absolutely. My
what are the
grandmother had it
things?
big time.
Yeah.
Couldn't go up the stairs. Eventually, she was in a wheelchair.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
was. She spent in a wheelchair the last between about 5 years of her life, and then a few years after that, she'd had her foot amputated.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that normally happens for diabetic patients as well.
If they don't take care of
Now,
it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what are the things that, I can do personally? Let's say I got diagnosed with motor neuropathy. Of course, my doctor will be, giving me, let's say, scripts for drugs and
Yeah. Prescription medications.
therapies, probably, right? But what can I do to, let's say, what are the things that I can do to,
Okay.
let's say, improve it?
Absolutely. So
Mm-hmm.
with peripheral neuropathy, motor neuropathy, one of the key things that you have to do is to make sure that your nerves to wherever the problem is working correctly. For
Mm-hmm.
example, if you have motor neuropathy in your feet can't move correctly. You have to get blood flow to that area. You got to keep it moving. See, most people start getting that and they're afraid of losing their balance. So now they
Yeah.
stop moving. What you have to do is
Mm-hmm.
you have to continue moving. You have to, while you're sitting, you have to pump your feet up and down to get blood flow in that area, right? Now, the other thing is, what do you need to do to prevent the deterioration? It really depends on what the cause is. Well, if it's a
Yeah.
stroke, right? Hopefully your doctor is really good. They're preventing your stroke. They're doing everything right. They're putting you in therapy. But the other thing is what you put into your body, because those
Mm-hmm.
nerves that control those muscles needs to be um, stimulated, but also have the right nutrients. See, and that's why both of those is part of the program that we're on, that we have our neuropathy patients on, is those nerves need to be stimulated and they have to make sure they're putting the right stuff in, and then
Mm-hmm.
make sure that you keep the wrong stuff out. We have our patients on an anti-inflammatory food management plan
Mm-hmm.
because inflammation, even since the 1920s, has been known as the sole cause of diseases. And when people already are suffering from motor neuropathy, any form of neuropathy, you have to minimize your inflammation because any increase in inflammation will just deteriorate that nerve even more. And no one can afford the deterioration of nerves when they're at that point.
Right. And does this nerves heal or regenerate?
Yes, nerves can heal and regenerate. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to make sure you're moving, getting blood flow, you're putting the right stuff in, you're stimulating the nerve. And regenerative medicine is also known to help that as well. See, so we use allografts, right? Wharton's jelly, allografts. Some people used to know it as stem cells, right?
Mm-hmm.
That can be used to help the nerve, to heal over the long period of time. It assists and it stimulates the healing of that area even more.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hopefully those answers your questions to
Yeah.
our viewers. So thank you
Yeah.
so much, Dr. Tam,
Okay.
for
Thank you so much.
discussing this, and enjoy the rest of the day.
Yeah. You too. Thank you, Rocky. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.